and welcome to Blockchain Futurist Conference. We are happy to talk to Keyvan Sadeghi from Functionland. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Anna.
You are a man coming from the cloud right to the ground. And the reason for that is that the company specializes in creating data, storing data, and facilitating data in the equipment which can belong to the company, to the person. So tell me, what is wrong with the cloud? Because we went through the internet, we went through the platform, then we went through this wonder, like eighth wonder of the world, SaaS, and everybody loved it, right? Yeah. Everything has been stored in the cloud, which is practically owned by major companies. There's like Amazon, Microsoft, Azure, IBM. There are just a few, and they're collecting everything what we deliver. That's one thing I see, but you will tell me, please, about the details, like what is actually wrong and how this cloud doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, you pointed out to the core problem of it. And every SaaS application, we have two parts. We have one part called front end. This is the thing that you download from, say, App Store. This is the app that you download on your phone and you work with. That's half of the program that needs to be ran for you to access that service. The other half is called backend, and that backend runs in the cloud, meaning you are not in the possession of that other half. So when you download an app, you're only getting the view, you're only downloading how it looks. How it works behind the scene is transferred over wire to the backend, which lives in the cloud. The problem with that model is, in that process of you only having the shell, whereas the core is not inside here, this is an empty shell, the core resides somewhere else, you lose that ownership. So it used to be, back in the day, for example, if you if you wanted to get a program like Microsoft Office, you would buy it on a DVD, right? That DVD you would put in your computer, and you would have the whole program, both the front end and the back end. So it was yours. In the transition to the cloud, that's changed. Now you only get the view, and the back end is in the cloud. So what happens is there is no legacy. So if you have a music library on Spotify, that doesn't transition over to your inheritance because that was never yours. It was just a record in the database somewhere in the cloud. You never owned any of this stuff. If you say you had like a robot, a vacuum robot, it works for a couple of years because you have the front end on your robot on the IoT device. But then the company goes bankrupt, they decide to pull the plug on their back end, then your robot stops working. It was never yours, and all your data is there for them.
Fascinating. So that means we've been users for such a long time and enjoying that, not really getting deep into the situation, but practically exposing ourselves to losing our data and our libraries and being completely dependent on the provider of the platform.
Yeah, true. And this is like a side effect of how the technology has evolved, right? So cloud was actually a revolution back in the time. Like I was a platform engineer like in 2012, and we were trying to migrate everything from on-premise to cloud because it was so hard for these small businesses to run their own operation. So this thing came along called infrastructure as a service. So that meant there was like open source project, very novel and with novel ideas and goals, like OpenStack, that you could migrate your stack over to OpenStack and then have your stuff on the cloud. But what happened as it aged, like until now, it became this centralized authority. As the Jack Dorsey said, the Twitter CEO, he said, I played a part in locking everyone's identity in Twitter. You can have unlimited photos forever, right? Come and upload your stuff here. So, okay, everyone migrates from other things to this services photos app, right? And then, it's been 5 years, we're doing okay. Now it's not free anymore. Next month, let's start paying. And you've been locked in. You have all your memories locked in. You've got used to using that front end part. The comfort of it. Oh, I can only just easily search my mother's name and I can see all the pictures. But you've lost the control.
Nowadays, it's so important to have the data information, even for the compliance reason, for like KYC, AML, all this information. So for smaller, as much as for bigger like services or businesses, that's one of the key points, right? That even for the compliance reason, they can store this data, but having all the time access to it, not having an exposure of losing the data, and then potentially face compliance issues.
Sure. Yeah. And for certain type of data, like banking data in many jurisdictions, you have to stay within the borders of the legal country. So you cannot have that data stored other place. For certain types of like sensitive, like security sensitive data as well. You have geographic borders that you need to adhere to, right? And yeah, so with and this is something that with the migration of cloud, you sometimes lose. You cannot get that guarantee that, hey, I'm compliant because, oh, for high availability, we have a copy of it here, a copy of it in this other region, and another in this other region. Because high availability, but you're losing the core principles that this data needed to work with them.
What is the best solution right now for the companies which are starting to be in the business and they are dealing with customers' data or like business to business? That's the same thing. So what's the best way for them to store it and eventually also possibly, have some profits from the data or provide those profits to the customers for sharing the data with the organization?
Well, practically today, it's only one way that they already do it. So practically and today, it's dedicated servers. So that's why you see things like, say, banking apps here in Canada are so slow to update and innovate because it's a centralized server. It takes time for them to like innovate and push the boundaries. So today, the best is still the old way of doing things.
Okay.
But on the horizon is coming this decentralized storage solutions that can allow us to resolve that security aspect of it, that control aspect of it, that boundaries, everything, with proofs that you can get over blockchains. So it's mathematically proven to satisfy the qualities that you want it to have.
Yes, super. Well, thank you so much for letting us know that we can fly if we choose to, but we can also walk on the ground if we decide to do so.
Sure.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.